real Italian pastry, with a real Italian coffee. I'm enjoying my vacation out here. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody had a good weekend. If you didn't know, if you follow me on Instagram, you know I've been in Italy now for 4 or 5 days so far, and I've been enjoying my time. And sorry, I'm finishing this pastry. So, nothing better than some Italian pastry. If you guys are not familiar with me, I was born in Italy. I live in California, Florida, and kind of New York. But I'm originally from Italy, so I'm visiting my family for the month. So I've been training since from Italy, and that's the beautiful thing about working remote and working for yourself is I can just pick up and go to Italy. You know, me and my family over here. I'm hanging out, still trading. The time is of course different, but that shows you that you can trade from anywhere in the world. I'm in Italy trading like if I was in California, and I'm just enjoying my time. So if you're from Europe, guys, you guys can trade too. I get asked that question all the time. If I'm not from America, can I become a day trader? Can I invest? Of course, you can do both. So I'm in Italy, and a lot of there's been a lot going on last week. Last week was wild. We had a strong week, but we saw some selling off towards the end of the week. And I promised you guys, I asked on Instagram, do you guys want me to talk about stock market crash type of video, or do you guys want to make a weekly watch list? You guys voted more on stock market crash. I want to put crash quote unquote because just because I'm saying stock market crash doesn't mean it's actually going to happen. I'm kind of light on the idea of a stock market crash happening. I'm more heavy on the idea that it's a stock market correction, which will be a 5 to 10% drop in the stock market rather than a crash. A crash is usually over 20%, which leads into a bear market, and the bear market is a lot more serious, which it's usually 20, 40, 60% drop in the prices that can last 2 to 5 years. So they're very different corrections. You see that happen all the time. They happen sometimes multiple times a year. We saw that late into 2020, and we saw that earlier this year around March time. So small corrections on both of those. But I want to work more on making a stock market crash video because I think it's a serious topic and I see a lot of misinformation. I get a lot of messages, people asking about all this stock market crash type of stuff. So I'll make a really long, detailed video on my opinion, so you guys know what I'm thinking and how I would play stock market crash and what I think, when I think is going to happen, and if that's going to happen. But like I said, I don't think it's going to happen in 2020, even though there's a lot of people making videos on it. And it's one thing I hate. You guys know me, I never preach stock market crashes, but there's a lot of YouTubers out there and other people, the financial communities that talk about stock market crashes all the time. And the crazy thing is that there's a stock market crash about every 10 years. We saw that in 2008, so that in 2020, and the crazy thing about 2020 with the COVID crash was that it wasn't really anything with financial. It's just kind of something that happened that was kind of out of control of the stock market to begin with. And people mention stock market crash every year. Doesn't happen. After 10 years you find it happens and they say I told you so, when it's like, hey, you missed on 10 years of those pie going over 200% gains for just to catch a 30% drop. So don't focus on the stock market crash type of stuff. Just understand you can make money on both ways, the stock market up or down. But what I'm going to get into you guys today is the weekly watch list. So what stocks are we watching this week, and what do I think about the overall state of the market? Alright, let's get into some charts and some stocks that I'm watching for the week. As always, guys, this is just a weekly watch list. Doesn't mean I'm going to take every single trade of this. I just point out what I see in these charts and potential buy or sell signals depending on what we end up seeing. First, let's talk about AMD. AMD is a stock that everybody pretty much trades all the time. So AMD, as you guys can see from my charts, I ended up trading this stock like so many times. You can see here, this is one of its major support zone. It also was added to the weekly newsletter a bunch of times. You guys can see this is the main support zone that I probably bought AMD almost every single time. It hit the support zone probably almost every single time, I'm gonna say. And recently, AMD was in this really nice strong run, but as you guys can see, I had all this levels drawn up before, and as you can see, got rejected on this resistance level once yet. Until it breaks this resistance level, it will not make a higher all-time highs. But I had this inversion head and shoulders, broke out of it, executed perfectly, and now it's on its way down, but potentially has another buy signal. So they have earnings to report on 27th of July. So it's actually coming up, is it 2 weeks? I believe it is in 2 weeks, but let me delete some of these lines so we can talk about it a little more without overcrowding you guys. So what I expect from AMD is I see a potential ascending support, and I want to say it's potential because it's only proven to be a real support once when you bounce here on 78.50. As you can see, it did bounce on it, so I want to call it a soft support. just because it only has happened once. So like you will see, this bottom line here is a strong support because it's happened 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So that's a really strong support. But something's only bounced on something just once, that I would call that a soft support. But we're around that trend line where we saw a little, of course, the tech sector got kind of was getting a little destroyed on Friday and Thursday. But we did see some buying, a little bit of buying right at the bottom there, right on this trend line. So they have earnings coming up, 27 July. Of course, to me, they're probably going to beat earnings, and it's probably not going to be close. But will it be good enough for investors to keep wanting to buy? Then we shall see. But I do expect potentially to look for a bounce on this trend line. And another thing I like to point out is this is a previous support as well. If you get on a horizontal line, as you can see here, that bottom before it topped out here once. You had a little fake almost all the way up to the next resistance zone, but it's also over this little tiny area. It's also support zone right around this 85. I would call it 85.15 is the level that I'll be looking at to potentially seeing some buying pressure, or some buying power to potentially keep it running for a potential of 90. I would say about a potential of 90 for the target I would have going into the earnings, which I already have drawn out right there. 90.37 will be my next level that I'll be looking at into earnings. It's been trading pretty much in this kind of range between 75 to high 95 into this $20 range from about almost a full year from the earning in July of last year coming up to July of this year. So it's been trading in a sideways kind of manner on the more micro side for the past year. And we saw something happen with the Nvidia that traded for a long time in the same pretty much zone until it finally broke out of it. So I'll be looking for AMD to look for a play coming up into earnings. I love to play the run up into earnings. I rarely ever hold anything into earnings unless it's just some leftover shares from all the profit targets already taken. So it's pretty much a risk-free trade. But I will be looking for this bounce on this support area and this uptrend support. It also has the 50 SMA coming up, which is the little yellow line. And the 200 EMA is a little far off, down to 80 here. But I do think if this doesn't hold, of course, if you don't see the buying pressure, you don't just want to hold it. The next level that I'll be looking to buy is right around this zone right here. If we go to our rectangle, this will be the next level I'll be looking to buy, or it will be the next support zone at the bottom of here, which would also be this 200 EMA right in the middle of it. But that's the next one I will look at if this little trend line here does not hold up, and I will look to buy here in the low 80s. For the ER run up. So let's see, well, so we saw tech selling off last week, right? And a lot of people are worried about it. Whenever we see any kind of selling off, people really get worried. And I get that, because it's a very emotional game that we play with stock market, and people tend to worry a lot. But as you guys can see, we're still making high highs. We make a higher all-time high here. Now we make a new all-time high. We saw a bit selling off. We made a new high all-time high. We saw a bit of selling off. Here we saw a double top on both the times. We saw new all-time highs. Boom, we came down, retested on fill gap. A lot of times when you make so many all-time highs, it's time for it to sell. People are going to be taking profits, and it's going to sell off a bit. The one thing that, we have tech earnings coming up, so it is suspect to me. Why are we getting a sell-off before a lot of earnings? They're most likely going to be really, really good earnings. A lot of these tech top companies have been doing really, really well, and everybody kind of expects them to kill the earnings. So it is suspect to me to see why are we seeing selling off now? Not all places. When we seeing some all these tech companies doing so well. We saw Dow and the SPY not doing as well. And, FANG has been pretty much carrying the market for, it always kind of carries the market. But, it's suspect to me to see this selling off happen before the tech earnings. I'm not saying, it can't sell off. I'm just saying it's selling off in anticipation for earnings, so that, the big investors can get in for a little cheaper with the earnings coming up. Also with SPY, we can take this a little further out here, and it's kind of the range has been trading on for quite a while now. It's been respecting this range multiple times, going back to November of last year. We still do have this unfilled gap here all the way to 4.3, but it's still early to tell. I think with the SPY, it definitely has room to go back down to 427 if we don't see some buying pressure coming in onto next week. But I will put my first target for the SPY to keep selling off all the way down to 427, which will also be this little bit here of the uptrending support, and also could be a potential double bottom target with this previous candle here from the 8th of July that we saw. So the SPY's been selling off a little more than the triple Q, but like I said, we have to watch into next week. It's so hard to tell because we only saw a day of selling off. Next up, ticker symbol CHWY, CHWY. And with CHWY, I see something kind of interesting, which would be a bit of a reverse head and shoulder pattern with CHWY. And if you guys can't see it, here's for you the little curves creating now that third shoulder. Of course, to confirm this, it's also cannot make a lower low from this height, of course. So you would have to hold the support area around 76, 75 and a half. If I draw this here, I wouldn't really want to see it fall below 76.15. Also, support zone because it has the 200 EMA and the 50 SMA both on there as well. As we saw some bit of buying, it dips a little under 200 EMA, but you can see the EMA is a strong indicator because every time it kind of pretty much touches it, tends to go back up. And it touched it once the other day, tested it twice the second day, and getting bought out both days. Of course, you don't want to see multiple tests of it because the more you test the support or resistance zone, it's more than likely to break. But also, you don't want to see it test too many times because it keeps testing it and not being able to break it. It means that there's not enough either selling pressure or buying pressure to really break through it. So you want to see usually 1, 2, the third test to break. But if you see 5, 6 times, it means that the sentiment isn't as strong as you may seem, and you're probably gonna get a rejection or reversal. So I'll be looking for this head and shoulder pattern here. They have earnings all the way back out in September. By confirmation of this would be a break for me above 85, which would be here, 85, whatever 85 is. It's 85.16, 85. I will want to see a break at 85. And if you guys know me, I love to get a ball at the bottom, looking for a reversal. So for a head and shoulder, reverse head and shoulder pattern, I would love to get in here. So that's why I'm showing you guys this play now, even though you might break, in 2 weeks, it could go back and break above it. But I love to get in, try to get in the bottoms of plays, to catch the whole move, and I can set my stop loss, below here, below 73.8, and it gives me a lot more potential risk to reward. Might not go my way as often as if I try to break out, but the risk to reward is so much bigger that sometimes it's just so much better. So of course, before I get in, I do want to see some kind of reversal here, some kind of reversal doji on the daily, or buying pressure, a nice strong bounce. If tomorrow is breaks below it, I wouldn't really be looking at this play, and I would look for the next support zone, which will be around 73.33 below here. And then anything below it, you probably be a play that I wouldn't even look at anymore, as the inverse head and shoulder is probably not most likely going to play out. But this is the second stock I'm looking at going to next week. Let's talk about ticker symbol Apple. Apple has been a complete tear ever since it bounced off and kind of had this double bottom, then almost a triple bottom here, and it's kind of been just on a tear, hitting its new all-time high, so 150, and it's great how it just exactly says on the chart 150.00. Right now, we had a short position on Apple, and I think Apple is going to go back down and test its previous all-time highs, which will be 144.4, 144.5 to be exact. And I think it has room to go down all the way down here, and then that's where we're going to have to reevaluate things. So for a shorter play, I will look to short it all the way down to its previous all-time highs, which it's only $2, but Apple moves so slow that $2 is a pretty decent move. If you trade contracts, any money contracts are so cheap, just because Apple moves slow, just because so much of Apple is held in those big ETFs like the SPY, like the triple Q, and it moves, even it moved from 125 to 150, which is only $25, is actually a humongous move for Apple, and it looks just like it's being on a rocket up. Of course, they have earnings coming up on 26th of July. They hit its all-time highs right before the earnings, which could potentially lead to a sell-off right before the earnings kill it and potentially a rocket, or if the earnings aren't as good as expectation, it could just hit its all-time highs, have topped off here, this little bull run ahead, and come back down and probably trade sideways for some time. So look for both. I definitely look at for the previous all-time high, which was right here, this top of this previous high and showing pattern, to be the support zone. If this doesn't hold, there's room all the way down here when it's 130. What is this one over here? Drag it all the way out, it's 135.65. If this area doesn't hold, pretty much has room to come down all the way here. And if I see correctly, as a tiny little mini gap here of 137.4 to 137.52 that it needs to fill. So look for a bounce here. If the bounce comes, and see some buying coming in, some buying pressure, look for it's probably going to break another all-time highs. It's only going to make a dip and go back up. Well, if this doesn't hold, it's probably going to go back down. Look for take a short position all the way down to 135.72, and keep in mind that the earnings are coming up, so we'll have to see after the earnings, because earnings can really mess up with the charts depending how they end up, both on the positive or the negative side. Like I said, it's weird to see. It's kind of sus to see all this tech selling off before the earnings. Can mean one of the things: either they want to sell off the prices before ending earnings, and after earnings to continue the big move up, or the earnings are not expected to be as good as it can be. That's why I like to say that unless you're an insider, you don't know what the earnings are going to be like. NE is actually a symbol or a trade I'm in, a swing trade I've been in for the last couple of days, and as you can see, it's doing really well. We got in on here on the 15th of July, and 2 great green days for NE, doing really well for us, and that's not the tool that I wanted. And NE just broke out of this little this triangle that was building up. And let me click on it again. Come on. So it just broke out of it, and this is when you want to wait for those breakout moves, because when things breaks out, it's most likely gonna keep going up, and that's the kind of things that you want to get in. So we're getting around the breakout day. Been doing really well for us, hitting our first profit target over here, which was 77.93. And I think if we hold 78, we may see some rejection here, some consolidation. I'll be looking for consolidation, maybe preparing a bull flag here between 70, 78, 79, and 76, 77. Look for potential bull flag over here to build for our next move up. This is a NE energy play, and I think the energy sector is going to do pretty well in the coming weeks. So that also has the 6th of July does have the earnings coming up. So for NE, price target, next price target will be 80, the level of 80, which is the previous high as well, 81. And then if that, if we get a nice consolidation here at the bottom of this channel, move up to 81, and then look for similar, take profits, wait for the next setup. If the setup arrives, look for the next move, which will be 85 pretty much. And after 85, of course, it's for sure gonna break its previous all-time highs over here. So I believe it's the all-time highs, right? Yep, it's previous all-time highs. So that's the kind of place that you want to look for, these breakouts here. I'm not showing this place because I think NE still has a lot of good things to come. As this breakout is pretty massive triangle that was going back from early January this year, caused by the earnings sell-off. Then had another earnings sell-off, and now it's got a third earnings. So it could be just either another earning. You see, this is why the earnings are so, I like to play the run up to earnings, because you see this run up to earnings, sell off, run up to earnings, sell off. You see this run up to earning, potential sell off, but also could be another potential run up. So this is the kind of things you want to worry about when you're trading earnings. Look for the setups, look for the trade. Don't hold it to earnings, my recommendation, unless you have like some leftover shares, you just want to pretty much lotto out, then go ahead and do that. But that's some of the stocks. This is one of the stocks that I'm quite confident in. I think it's actually going to do well with the earnings, just because both times before it did sell off, but now it just broke out of the pattern it was in of selling off. Because let's say this was the pattern will still continue, NE would probably just get a little lower, and up here would have made a little strong push into the earnings and then sell off. So I do think that we'll probably, these earnings might catapult to its previous all-time highs, or that's at least what I'm hoping for. So, but of course, always trade with a plan, trade smart. There's some stocks I'm looking at. Let me know in the comments below. I'm still working on that video, so don't get mad at me. I'm still working on the stock market quote-unquote crash video, and it'll be coming out soon. But as always, hit the follow button, hit the like button, subscribe, let me know in the comments what you're going to see next. If you guys want to trade with me live, learn more about the stock market, how to read charts, hit the link in the bio. Our beginner course, we have a sale going on. You get 6 months of chat to trade live with me, trade live with all the head traders over at Small Players. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.